Well, good morning to everyone and to those that are tuning in to the Satsang online. This is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda, entitled Demand for the Pearls of Wisdom Obtained in the Sea of Meditation. Divine Father, teach me to dive deep for the pearls of thy wisdom in the ocean of meditation. Teach me to plunge headlong, protected in the diving suit of conscience, that the sharks of passion may not destroy me. If by one or two divings I find not thy wisdom pearls, let me not call the sea, let me not call the sea of meditation devoid of any pearl of thy wisdom. Teach me rather to find fault with my own diving. Teach me to dive again and again in meditation, deeper and deeper always, until I find thine immortal pearls of wisdom and of joy divine. And from the reading from the autobiography of a yogi, from the chapter Experience in Cosmic Consciousness. Yogananda had been with Sri Yukteswar. Again, he's still just a very young man. And he's getting, how you say, a little frustrated with the routine of the hermitage life. And also he's now in college. And so he's a bit frustrated with that experience too. And so he announces to his guru that he's going to be leaving and heading off to the Himalayas. And Sri Yukteswar tried to dissuade him, knowing that this was going to be a fruitless trip. He had everything that he wanted there in the ashram with his own guru, but Yogananda stubbornly was determined to go to the Himalayas, and off he went. And he didn't have a good time. It was a very tough, very challenging. And at one point, he also had gone on this experience to seek out a great saint, Ram Gopal, who was a liberated soul. And yet, even trying to find him was very, very difficult. And it's a delightful story in a way, in the autobiography of a yogi, where he keeps on being told by the local villagers, because Ram Gopal lived far out, oh, he's over here in this direction. And it wasn't true. And they would say, just a couple more crochets. And he would go again the distance. And I'm so sorry, it's this way. So he had a very, very frustrating time finding Ram Gopal. And when he did at last, Ram Gopal said, I was going to be leaving, but I knew that you were coming. Of course, these great saints are all omnipresent. And so I waited for you. And he said, this isn't what you want. Go back to the ashram with your guru. So Yogananda spent some time with Ram Gopal. Ram Gopal gave him a state of high consciousness at the time. And then he did go back to his guru's ashram. And when he came back, he said to Sri Yukteswar, Guruji, I'm back. And Swami Sri Yukteswar said, why? Why? What is this? You're not doing what I'm asking you to do. Now I will. And so then the saga continued. Yogananda went up to his meditation room at one point and was meditating, and Sri Yukteswar called him down and said, come. And Yogananda, again, frustrating. I don't know what the stars are doing at that time for him, and said, Guruji, I'm meditating. And Sri Yukteswar said, I know how you're meditating, like leaves blown in the wind. And so Yogananda came down, and Sri Yukteswar said, I know, of course, what you're seeking, and he gave him the touch of samadhi. If you haven't read this incredible poem, Samadhi, that Yogananda wrote some years later, incredibly, on a New York subway, and he said no one saw him there as he rode the subway back and forth. He withdrew his aura. No one could see him, so he could concentrate on this beautiful poem. And so this reading now is after he has come back to his guru. Sri Yukteswar taught me how to summon the blessed experience at will. He's just had this experience in samadhi that Yogananda, that Sri Yukteswar gave him, and also how to transmit it to others if their intuitive channels were developed. For months, I entered the ecstatic union, comprehending why the Upanishads say God is rasa, the most relishable. One day, however, I took a problem to master. I want to know, sir, when shall I find God? You found him. Oh, no, sir, I don't think so. My guru is smiling. I am sure you aren't expecting a venerable personage adorning a throne in some antiseptic corner of the cosmos. I see, however, that you are imagining that the possession of miraculous powers is knowledge of God. One might have the whole universe and find the Lord elusive still. Spiritual advancement is not measured by one's outward powers, but only by the depth of his bliss in meditation. Ever new joy is God. He is inexhaustible. As you continue your meditations during the years, he will beguile you with infinite ingenuity. Devotees like yourself who have found the way to God never dream of exchanging him for any other happiness. He is seductive beyond thought of competition. How quickly we weary of earthly pleasures. Desire for material things is endless. Man is never satisfied completely and pursues one goal after another. The something else he seeks is the Lord, who alone can grant everlasting joy. I understand now, sir, why saints call the Lord unfathomable. Even everlasting life could not suffice to appraise him. That is true, but he is also near and dear. After the mind has been cleared by Kriya Yoga of sensory obstacles, meditation furnishes the twofold proof of God. Ever new joy is evidence of his existence, convincing to our very atoms. Also, in meditation, one finds his instant guidance, his adequate response to every difficulty. I see, Guruji, you have solved my problem. I smile gratefully. I do realize now that I have found God. For whenever the joy of meditation has returned subconsciously during my active hours, I have been subtly directed to adopt the right course in everything, even details. Human life is beset with sorrow until we know how to tune in with the divine will, whose right course is often baffling to the egotistic intelligence. God bears the burden of the cosmos. He alone can give unerring counsel. Swami tells a story which is fun and at the same time has a real important lesson. This man wanted to get out of the military. He was in the army, and he didn't know, what to do. And he came upon, I think it was a super conscious solution. Every problem has a solution there to be found. And so he went around there at the army base, picking up pieces of paper. And as he did, random pieces of paper, whatever he found on the ground, and said, this isn't it. And he did this for days, maybe even longer, until finally it was recommended that he go to the camp psychiatrist. And so the camp psychiatrist, knowing that this man was doing something very, very unusual, recommended him for a discharge and handed him the paper, the discharge paper. And the man said joyfully, this is it. Well, a fun story, but again, with an important lesson. This is what we're doing, neti, neti, not this, not that. We have to discriminate. It's so very, very important. As Yogananda said very simply, because these great gurus are doing everything to give us the shortcut in life through this labyrinth of our karma and so forth, to give us all the easy things, the solutions. That's why he said Kriya Yoga. Yogananda said Kriya Yoga is the airplane route, because now we know that the problem is to be found here in our own self, the karmas that are lodged in the chakras, in the deep spine, in the sushumna. And through meditation, through spending time here in our hearts, bit by bit, we dislodge these obstacles that are constantly influencing our thought, constantly influencing our heart, the things that we do. but we have to be persistent. That's why Yogananda said, as I've mentioned in the past, I attract stubborn people because that's what's required in the positive sense, stubbornly holding on to the feet of God. Here we are at a very auspicious time. Yogananda's Mahasamadhi is on Thursday. And interestingly, Sri Yukteswar's Mahasamadhi is two days later on Saturday. Again, as a reminder of the guru-disciple relationship, Yogananda and all the line of our gurus, they came in free. They came in as avatars. They didn't have a trace of karma. There was no karma physically on the astral world. There was no karma on the causal plane. None, zero. They had no more karma. They were completely free. And yet, they've elected to come down again and again and again out of compassion to help us. And so Yogananda, as a young man, he didn't need to spend 10 years in his guru's ashram, and it wasn't a lot of fun. Sri Yukteswar was very, very stern, very stern. One time, Yogananda was at this particular celebration, and as he walked along, he tripped over a rug, and Sri Yukteswar loudly before everyone said, "You oaf," and everyone laughed. And Yogananda said to himself, "Okay, you're laughing, but you don't have what I have." And this again and again and again was the experience of Sri Yukteswar, and he was doing it for a reason. He was doing it because he knew that when Yogananda was to be sent to the West, which was his mission in 1920, after his time there in the ashram with Sri Yukteswar, he was going to be facing a lot of obstacles, some very extreme. He was nearly assassinated 2 times. And many, many other times were very, very hard on him. And yet, what did he find in America? He was drawn to Los Angeles, specifically, because he said Los Angeles was the Benares of the West, that great rishis were there thousands of years ago. And so that's where he was called. And although he was filling the largest halls in the land during that time period in the early 20s, early 30s, when people would ask him again, please, because they knew he was looking for an international center, how about my city? He said, no, Los Angeles is calling me. And so Sri Yukteswar, as is true with life, when we get these experiences that are tough and we just as soon sidestep them, they are here to help us. I was sharing with a friend the wonderful story, perhaps you've heard it in the lessons, of this tiger, small little cub, that was raised by sheep because his mother had been killed. And so at one point, after many years of the tiger, now the little cub had grown up and now was a big tiger. Well, this other wild tiger came by and was astonished by this tiger acting as a sheep and bleeding like a sheep, acting like a sheep in every way. And so he was just unbelievable. Just couldn't, I guess it stopped the tiger's mind. And he rushed up to the sheep tiger, grabbed him by the mane, raced on down to the lake and gave him a shaking. And showed him the reflection in the lake. Wake up. Don't you know who you are? And so I love the story because that is what these lessons come. When they come to us, that's what they are there for. They're not meant to hurt us. Some of them are very painful, but that is not why they come. They come to give us the shaking. But you know, after the shaking, what is there is that growing peace, that growing joy. It's why Yogananda said, after practicing the technique, spend time in the stillness. He says, you don't eat your meal and then race off somewhere. You sit down, you go to the living room and enjoy the after effects of this meal. And so it is. When we do our meditation, we're drawing up this karma. And so in some instances, time is scant and we race off to work or whatever our duties are, and we still feel a little agitated. And we think, my goodness, I thought meditation was supposed to help. I feel worse. We're not completing the cycle. We need to spend that additional, if we can, another 20 minutes or so, until the rest of that karma has been released. And then that peace, that joy, that love comes. And then we can take that into our day as a blessing for others that have the reward of spending time with a yogi, whether it be in the workplace, whatever it might be. And so I have enjoyed over the years experimenting. After all, that's what yogis and yoginis are. We're a bunch of scientists. With when Roma and I have raised a daughter, so this happened quite a lot when she was little. All of a sudden I go, oh my gosh, time to get to work, whatever it might be, time to get her off to school. And I hadn't finished. I'd done my Kriya, but I hadn't finished with that time, that relishable time, just to sit in the silence. Silence is God, as Yogananda said. And so I would find that even hours into the day, interestingly, it took me a while to become aware of this. There was some agitation in the heart. There was some agitation that I could feel. And so it occurred to me, I haven't finished. And so I would take the time, and I had to be creative because my work was very demanding. Roman, I worked at our retreats for many, many years, and the guest is God, and we were there for them, of course, and so forth. But I would take 5 minutes or 10 minutes during the course of the day to finish up my meditation. It wasn't done yet. And that joy then came, that peace. And I said, very good. Now I'm on to something. And it reminded me, as the yogis recommend so highly, live more in the spine. So know where you are at. That's being wise. That's being the jnani. That's discriminating. Be in the spine. And as we spend time, obviously, it's not the physical spine we're talking about. It's the energy astral spine, the Sushumna, where the chakras reside, where joy is to be found. The more we're able to relate in that way to our own self, the more we are finding, and this is really a miracle, bit by bit, we're discovering that the love of God is to be found within, and we fall in love with ourselves. We begin to see God in one another, and we fall in love with God in our brothers and sisters as well. My God, this is life. Most people are constantly in conflict with themselves. They're not integrated. They're not balanced. They don't even know where to start. They're living a survival existence. But as we take the time and to go inside, we begin to see, my God, this is the shortcut. And as Jaya said very wisely, he was asked, Swami Jaya, who's co-director of Ananda India, he was asked one time, and it's been very helpful to remember this from time to time. He was asked by someone if there was one thing, and this is not an easy question for someone to answer who's been on the path for some time. There was one thing that you would say was really the fruit of your many years of meditation. What would that be? And Jaya took the time, because there were so many things he could have said, but he felt perhaps that this was appropriate for this person. He said, really what I have found is that the blessing of meditation, it gives me, during especially times of challenge and conflict, that moment to withdraw. And sometimes that's all we have, maybe even only a half a second to respond to someone who's maybe being unkind, whatever it might be, and then coming out with the appropriate response. He's come in to replenish. He's come in to dive into that reality of the soul. And so, of course, what's going to come out, rather than just a knee-jerk reaction, eye for an eye, oh yeah, well, you're even more of an idiot, and so forth. What does that do? That just compounds the problem. We're not doormats, but at the same time, every situation, it's why we want to spend time with the saints, because what they do is appropriate. And that's why Sri Yukteswar said, learn to behave. Learn to behave. To learn to behave is a wise course, because in that way, we don't find that we're constantly tripping over ourselves. And we say something rude to someone, and that, maybe days, weeks, you can ruin a relationship, a lifetime relationship, a relationship with a best friend, because somehow they've said something that's very rude, and it's a slap for a slap. And that could be the end of that. That's something that's very sad to contemplate. Perhaps we've even had that experience to whatever degree. And so bit by bit, we begin to take the counsel of the saints. If you want to be happy, make good choices. That's the wise course. And every single moment, think of it, is a crossroads. Every single moment. Do we want to go to the left, which is negative, or do we want to go to the right? And it's important to pause because sometimes we're not happy with the situation. Our boss has been grumpy for one solid week. He's giving us this target, which is beyond reason, because we just got done finishing a very challenging, maybe a couple of weeks or months of a project. And now he wants another one. He hasn't given us any time to recoup, to rest. And these things happen. And we think, well, what's this? Is God now on vacation? No. God's in the boss too. Remember, as it says, as Christ said, well, you love me in this disagreeable form. When someone comes, this is God, no mistaking it, God's everywhere, and they're challenging us, can you love me even in this form? Not easy. And that's why recently I was sharing with a friend that he was asking me, what do you do with these people that are just, you want them maybe to move to Hyderabad or something, sorry, Hyderabad, or some other spot, just out of my life, I've had enough. And I said, you know something? I found that these people are helping. They're helping. This is how the pearl is formed, by that sand, agitating the oyster, the pearl comes out. And that's not easy to grasp when we're going through the trial by fire. But bit by bit, we began to be gracious and to appreciate that God makes no mistakes, and everything that comes to us inwardly and outwardly is from God to help us to grow spiritually. And so when the tiger, so to speak, is giving us this shaking, this is what the karma is doing to us. This shaking, it just seems like we can't possibly even survive. Somehow step back from that and say, well, I don't really appreciate this because I've had enough shaking for the last couple of weeks, but let me rise to the occasion. One more krosha, 2 more kroshas. Sometimes that's our karma. Go the extra mile. And the fruit of that is that there's an acceleration of growth. That's the potential. That's why I like to say sometimes with karma, we pay balloon payments. You're not just paying a little bit of karma off. God says, oh, this is ripe. Maybe the stars are such that this is the perfect time to bring in the in-laws and to create chaos in work by, challenges that are seemingly insurmountable. This is the time. And if we rise to the occasion, then we find that the fruit of that is joy. And so life is very short. It really is. And we speak from experience. Now that, again, we're looking in the mirror and wondering who that old man is, we know now from spending this time, and I don't mean to say for a moment that young people don't come to this realization. I hope they do. But for everyone, time is going by very quickly. And what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to be wise. As Ramakrishna said, be like the wise ant in that mound of sand that is able to discriminate, to take the sugar, not the sand. That's from Ramakrishna, the sweetness of life. Take the sweetness of life. Draw the sweetness out of that grumpy boss. Draw the sweetness out of that negative mood. In that way, we are able to find that God is there, always helping us, always. Never is God absent. When we call to him, God wonders why it took so long. You should have called me an hour ago. You should have called me 5 minutes ago. You should have called me a lifetime ago. I'm here for you. I know what's going on here with this Maya, with this duality. Of course they do. They're awake. We're struggling to be awake. And so to be the wise ant, to draw from life. There again, every problem has a solution. Test it, it's true, even the big ones. Drawing from life the essence, and the essence is joy, because God is joy and joy is God. And so with every meditation, bit by bit, we begin to think in terms of How does an Olympian get that gold medal? You think of, I believe, Michael Phelps, 28 gold medals. Is there anybody else that's ever going to get that? If you get one, you think, my God, my life has been made. He was in the swimming pool 6 years, not taking one break. That's how we got 28 gold medals. And so the Olympians, they're just, doing these various things on the physical plane, but nevertheless, very inspiring by that incredible determination, whether they're running or whatever they're doing in their particular field. The amount of concentration and dedication is colossal. So we need to be the Olympian yogis and yoginis, but it has to be done in a way that's natural, and that's the trick. It's the science and the art mixed as one, so that we begin to love both the craziness, which is the ego and our karma, and the soul. And so more and more I've been finding that I am getting a lot from this thought. And this is not just for me, it's for everyone. We're finding God. And we've already found him. We're finding God because that's the human experience. As we're working through our karma, we're finding God. That's the reason for joy. We're finding God. And we are, because we have the sufficient good karma to begin the search. We're finding God. But pause, we're already in God. And so that's the true reality as the soul. The soul has nothing to attain. And so in that way, we can be happy all the time, because the striving, the Olympian effort, as we strive for that, is very rewarding, because there's nothing like earning. There's nothing like earning the next experience, whatever that might be, both inwardly and outwardly. And there's nothing like acknowledging that we've got nothing to earn, as Yogananda said, and it can be a head scratcher. Nothing is happening. I think, well, nothing is happening. What's this earning stuff? Nothing is happening. At the end of all the things that we do, it adds up to zero. Well, gee, this isn't very fair. And that's why Yogananda said, God feels a little bit bad about what he's done. And I always think, a little bit bad, a little bit bad. That's not very much. He feels a little bit bad, because this is the experience, but even he gets tired and withdraws everything into the night of Brahma, gets a blissful rest. And then, when he's had enough, then out it comes again. All this craziness that we are experiencing. And so for us, the purpose of life, whether people are aware of it or not, we are on deeper and deeper levels, it's joy. That's it. Joy is God and God is joy. And from joy springs everything else. That's why Yogananda said, Swami Kriyananda said, don't seek God first for love, because love can go out or down. Seek God first for joy. And then from that joy comes wisdom, light, love. Everything else, that magnetism of joy, draws all of the spiritual qualities that we're all seeking in common. And so, even though the meditation seems a little bit busy, as Naya Swami Jochi said recently, he said he was meditating and his meditation was a little busy. And he has this wonderful picture of the last smile of Yogananda, as we have here. And he looked up and was surprised. Yogananda was smiling. He could feel that joyous acceptance that, okay, it's a busy meditation. It's a long haul, don't worry. And he could leave his meditation not in a state of agitation and of frustration. He left with the blessing of his guru that he had done his part. He had showed up for sadhana, done his best, a little bit busy, but life goes on. And there would be another meditation. There would be deep breath. There's the opportunity for sleep. And so, again, we have to keep alert. We have to stand guard, because the Maya is always finding ways, pure genius, as it is God in that form, in that mischievous form, the testing form. We have to stay very, very aware that in order to stay on the straight and narrow, as the spiritual path has been described as the razor's edge. So as not to get cut, just to stay one-pointed, and not just for ourselves. That's the bullet cart route. The airplane route is to go in, drink in that joy, and then to share in ways that we feel are appropriate for us, prayer especially, and in other means. So God bless you all. Again, it's always a joy to spend time with you, because we can always see, and we have all of this experience, that we've all been working hard at this project, not just in this incarnation, but for many incarnations. And it shows.